All the key employees have shifted loyalties now to the new CEO. Obviously, haven't been there a couple years. And the new CEO was incredibly talented, really had the ability to bring in people, engage them. The challenge was they never learned the business. And in fairness, it's law. Lawyers are very difficult people. Intellectually, they're in the top 2% of the country. I never attribute myself as being that smart because I treat myself as an entrepreneur first that happened to go into practice of law. Believe it or not, I'm also a CPA by trade. I went and I worked for Price Waterhouse in my early days, and so that's been a big part of understanding business. The CEO made some key decisions on strategic people and her leadership team that were ineffective decisions. I think she had a high level of trust in one in particular who became the CRO, who she thought was a miracle maker. And I kept from the outside challenging all the metrics I was looking at. And the answer always was, oh, no, this guy's brilliant. He's going to figure it all out. Well, what he figured out was how to tank it all and bring it back to ground zero. And so the evaluation that I had in 2020, when I had to step back in again to take over the company in 2024, had gone down 90%.
Obviously you saw, these monthly meetings, you started to see some of the trends in the metrics, and that's how you were able to kind of understand that things weren't going the right direction. Being that your role was different, how were you able to maneuver to reposition yourself to take over to rebuild the company?
What happened was, as the investor, my ability to control things was really limited to my direction to the CEO. And so my direction to the CEO became very clear. I need financial statements that say X. I need dollar amounts that, because the company had always run itself. It always had a profit. Now it needed investment for the first time ever. I shouldn't say first time ever. I should say it's the first time probably in 20 years. So I said, well, I'm an investor. I need to know what I'm investing in. And so what I started doing is asking tougher questions. And eventually, she came to see that key position that she had trusted someone wasn't performing, because I said, I need the metrics in this key area. And when she was looking at those metrics, she saw they weren't what she had promised they were going to be. And I just merely went back to her and said, no, look, when we met 3 months ago, you said this was going to happen. Well, this is what actually happened. So help me understand why I would be investing in that. Right. So that's a painful part, because you have to sit by and watch them continue to fail. But you have to coach them to help them see it. Long story short, without belittling that, let me tell you another funny story. This is important because it goes back to in 2023, she was running both my law firm and my national organization. I said, look, it's time to shift leadership away. You can't do both. So I required her to have a new leader of my law firm by fourth quarter 23. You can't make this stuff up. So she was overcommitted. So I said, let's create if you're EOS friendly, a rock. So we created a third quarter rock that said, who could possibly take over the law firm? So we did national searches with member firms that maybe would want to come in and run my firm or other things. And in the end, you ready for this? We also made the decision that I would go back in and run my law firm. Because for me, I wasn't running my national company. I had been out of the day-to-day business grind. It was fun for me. I went back into my law firm. And here's the beautiful part. You ready for this, Richard? You can't make this up. It was almost 25 years to the day that I started that whole thing that other lawyers came to me for. And I wanted to find out, there's so much that changed. Does what I originally built this company on still work? So on October 1st of 2023, I went back into my law firm, never knowing I was going to be coming back into my national legal organization. But what I learned in that first 3 months of running the company, I came back to the firm and I made him 3 promises. And I said, the first promise is I want to make sure that every day when you come to work, you love coming to work, because I still love coming to work every day. And I want every one of you. The second promise I made them was I wanted to create a law firm that none of them ever had to leave, that they could retire at this law firm. And the third promise I made them was that I would not leave this law firm again until it was self-growing. See, I built a self-managing law firm. Those are terms that Dan Sullivan, the strategic coach, always used. but I hadn't built a self-growing law firm because it had gone up and down within this framework, but never really grew. It made me a good amount of money every year, and it filled one pocket, and it was a great entrepreneurial experience. But now my commitment was to come back and grow a company that wasn't dependent on any one person, including me. And I got to tell you, since going back into my law firm, there's two things I learned. One was all of the strategies and techniques that I built in 99 and 2000 and 2001 still work exceptionally well. The old handshake is still the best way to generate a lead, bar none. What I learned, though, was the technology applications has just exponentially sped everything up. So the skills that we learned in 90s and the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s are still critical skills to have. In fact, that's what I'm learning as I'm rebuilding my business, teaching my younger people those skills from the 90s, those skills from the early 2000s, the old handshake, the importance of relationship. Okay, that's what made those people take their resumes off the market. It wasn't because I promised them money. I didn't promise them anything. All I promised them was that I would come back and I would fix it and to trust me. And they trusted me. And those relationships that I had in my law firm, right? Going back to them, they trusted me. That will never change in human dynamics. But technology now, the ability to do this over Zoom, the ability to connect with people through email campaigns and through websites. Wow, right? The power of exponential of traditional. So that really was my lesson that I was learning at the end of 23 and into 24. And mid 24, my CEO asked me to come in to take over sales because she had fired that person she relied on, and to take over finance because the CFO could no longer commit to the time that they were committing. So I came in those two areas, and that's where I began my rebuild, right? The two most important parts of your business, your financial, right? And your sales. And so that started the journey back, and there we go. We have it, and we're on the upswing again. And so it's crazy. Like my law firm hit heights in the 12 months. Now it's 15 months since I've been there that it had never seen in the history of the firm. Again, old habits, old skills, but applying them to new technologies and new events happening. Wow. Again, I've been talking a lot, but it's a big story to chunk in the little pieces, but a lot of things happen. But look at the energy, right?
Oh, yeah. The energy is clear.
And coming back in, way easier. It's way easier because of, you ready for this term I'm going to use? And it's a term I'm not going to use lightly. Maybe we'll come back after the next break and talk about that thing called wisdom. What is the wisdom of entrepreneurship? I think that's the biggest takeaway as I sit in my seat now is it's a lot easier because of what you learn along the journey.
Do you think, Dave, that 25-year-old Dave would have been able to listen and understand the lessons that you could tell him today?
No. And I got to tell you, that's the greatest beauty, Richard, is the soon to be 60-year-old Dave still feels 25 inside. So that's what's key, number one. If you're not enjoying what you're doing, you got to do something else. I love waking up every day and coming to work. But what I love now is not the thing that we do. It's developing the people. When I come in now as CEO, I made a declaration to every employee. I said, I'm not leaving again. I'm here until you guys sell the company to yourself through an ESOP, or we sell the company to an outsider that you guys bring in. But I'm not going anywhere anymore because I don't need to, because I have the team and the culture. But what happens is the wisdom to teach these 30-something-year-olds, because that's who my leadership team, they're all in their 30s. 2 hit 40 in the last 6 months, okay? And I got a couple of those in their 50s, right? Early 50s. They're gems too. But it's different because no, the 25-year-old Dave, even the 45-year-old Dave, even the 50-year-old Dave wouldn't have been able to do what the 60-year-old Dave can do. Because that thing called wisdom, which is, you just said it, You said the word listen. So there's two powerful things. 90% of what I do now is listen and ask powerful questions. I very little speak. My people, they actually laugh and get frustrated now. They say, Dave, what should I do? And I'm like, I don't know. What should you do? Pause, silence. And then you begin this journey of coaching. The greatest thing why I love getting up every morning, I had one today, my one-to-ones with my leaders, seeing the growth, seeing the ahas and the light bulbs in these 40-year-olds. Like, wow, I never saw this before. They don't know it. It's the secrets of what we used to do all the time. See, they're really good at the new part, but they don't have that old part. But you can't tell someone it. You can't say you need to do this. They've got to experience it themselves. And the only way that happens is by you changing your interaction with them. It's got to become an interaction of coaching and listening. And not thinking you have the answers. Because I'm going to tell you, the biggest surprise is the stuff they come up with is still better than what I was thinking. So that's what the wisdom does. Wisdom takes your knowledge, but gets you out of the mindset that you have the answers, but instead gets you to ask the right questions of people that have a different scope of knowledge that gets answers that you could never have anticipated. And boy, you want to talk about exciting, and why I'm getting younger each day is because I'm able to bring those light bulbs in my own mind as I'm bringing it in theirs. It's a double whammy. It's beautiful. It's incredible.
I absolutely love that, Dave. That's fantastic. We're going to talk more about those learning moments, and we're going to talk more about the new technology that you've been working on that you're changing the game on yet again after these messages.